Hi there. In this tutorial, we will be adding fine-grained authorization, also known as Authz, to an existing Go gRPC server. I'll be using the same neuron I used in our tutorial on creating a Go gRPC server. So let's go into the process. And the first thing I would want to do is on one of my resources, I'm going to add some roles. So on the author resource, I'm going to add a role, admin, yeah, I'm happy with that one. And another one, okay, the second recommended one is editor. Yeah, I'm just going to keep those two default ones, but you can tweak them and add more. And then I'm not going to add any roles on the book. I'm going to add role permissions on the entire gRPC server. So first, I'm going to, for this library author admin role, I'm going to give that role the ability to update an author, delete the author, what else? Create a book, update a book, delete a book. Yeah, cool. And then I'm also going to give the editor, library, author, editor, I'll give them also the ability to maybe create a book and update and delete a book, but I won't give them the ability to actually edit the author itself. Cool. Now the changes, so let's update that. Now let's go back to the Go gRPC server code block, and the first thing I'm going to look at is any changes in the proto files, and obviously it's the proto resource that I edited, so I'm expecting here to be some changes. Let's compare. Cool. So it's obviously adding some, let's just do this, some IAM imports, and then also some recommended IAM RPCs. So get, set, policy, test permissions, add bindings, and remove bindings. Cool. So I'm going to add all of those. Happy with that. Now let's go to that protofile. Yeah, let's just commit this, and then let us find that. Yeah. So now let's go, so the fact that I now defined these new RPCs will also actually change what is recommended for me. And one more thing, I'm actually going to go back in here to the role permissions, because now there's more RPCs available, the get, policy, etc. And I actually want to give the author admin the ability to, okay, it looks like this just needs to be refreshed. So let's close this, open it up again. I want to give the author admin also the ability to change its own IAM policy. So set policy. Actually, no, I don't want them to directly set the policy, just add bindings and remove bindings. Yeah. So test permissions is something we're going to make that open so anyone can test their own permissions, obviously. So yeah, update that. And now let's again go to the code block, and before we step through all of them, I'm definitely expecting a change in the spanner Terraform. Okay, so obviously it wants to add a policy column. So I'm going to do this, commit this so long so that we have that policy column ready when we want to test. So feature, library, policies on authors, and then let's build and deploy that. Yep. Okay, while that is busy building and deploying, let us look at the rest of the changes. So yeah, no, there should be no changes in any of these. In future releases, we'll also make it clear which files you actually need to look at, like which files are different. For now, yeah, I guarantee you there's no other changes in the Terraform. So let's look at the rest. So I'm going to open the server.go, compare that. Let's just close this. Okay. So yeah, some imports it wants to add. I'm just going to add all of these. And then also a server authorizer section, which would make more sense in the context of the internal IAM package that's also added, But this is basically just initializing the authorizer. I just want to wrap this so we can read it a bit easier. Yeah. So this just adds an authorizer that is then used to authorize all incoming RPC requests, which will make sense when we look at the methods. I'm going to add that as well. Cool. And now, yeah, next one I want to look at is the, just going to close this, is the Docker file. I'm not expecting any changes here really. No. And then, okay, let's book methods again. Actually, no, book methods will definitely have changes because now we're actually doing authorization on each request. So yeah, just an auth-z portion before the rest of the request is processed, as you can see. So I am just adding all of these. Okay. Pump, pump. And you will see some of them, it's not just an initial auth-z, there's an auth-z continued. And that's specifically for certain RPCs where you are actually obtaining the resource and its policy from the database because they are in the same row. So instead of doing the auth-z, which requires the policy, you just set it up and you maybe fetch other policies that aren't on that resource, like the parent maybe also has a policy that might give someone permission. But then the actual auth-z happens after you've read the thing. So it's kind of preventing duplicate reads from the database. So we rather read the resource that we anyways need, and then we continue the authorization with that policy in that database row. Yeah, same here for the list operation. And for list, you'll also see that for every resource that's listed, an additional auth-z is done to see if the requester has get permissions on that. So someone might have the permission to list all books or list all authors, but then on individual books or authors, they might not have the permission to get that. So then you would want to filter out those books or authors that they don't have access to. Cool, happy with all those changes. And then for methods test, I'm just gonna, yeah, I know I didn't make any changes, so just to speed this up, I'm just gonna override that one. Same with my author methods. Yeah, let's quickly compare that. You can see it's again just adding some, oh actually, there's some other things like let's step through this quickly. There's the auth-z, obviously, like similar to in the books methods, but now there's also these additional RPCs, specifically the get IAM policy, the set IAM policy, the test permissions, the add bindings, and the remove bindings. And all of these are already complete. You don't need to tweak anything there. So yeah, and then obviously the rest are just the normal auth-z things that happen before the rest of the request is processed, and continuing if we are also reading the resource from the database. So let's quickly finish this up. Okay. Oh, I see there's some minor mistakes here. We'll just, oh no, I just forgot to add them. That's what. Same here and here. Looks like there's another one there and there. Just want to add all the changes quickly. Oh, this is just a space. That's fine. Okay. And again, the authors test. I'm just going to override this one. Now in internal, the validation will obviously just add the additional validators for the new RPC. So I'm just going to actually to speed all of this up because there's no real other big changes to be concerned with. I'm just going to delete my internal folder and then say add missing. Cool. And then you will see now in the database initializations, it has on the authors this additional option, has IAM policy. And then in there's a new IAM internal package. And this is where we set up our authorizer. We set up how policies are resolved. So we're saying that if there's an RPC related to an author, the policy or the policies that you need to go look at to see if this person has permission is just from the actual author resource. So just do a get policy on the author resource. And then for book, we're saying that do a get policy on the author resource, not on the book, because the book itself doesn't have a policy. So this could be multiple policies. That you might also have policies on books, and then it's both the author and the book that is considered for, policies are read from both those resources to see if the requester has permission. And this configuration here is figured out based on how you set up your permissions. So down here, I have saying that the author role has some book RPC methods. And that is why in this section on the book regex, we also add the author, because we need to look in the author policies as well to see if someone has access. Okay, and then there's this permissions.go, and this is where we add our open RPC, so like validate, retrieve, test permissions. Those are things that you always want to be open. And then also for resources that don't have parents, like authors, the create and the list is open. But this is it. You can decide to not do it that way, but this is kind of the recommendation. And then based on how we configure these permissions, this is put down. You can see it's a very easy mapping. Just taking whatever role you said and then saying which RPCs that role has access to. And then in validation, obviously, in validation, obviously also the new RPCs also have validations on them. So specifically the get policy, set policy, add bindings, remove bindings, and you will see that there's also validation to ensure that whatever role is being added or removed, that must be a role that, like, it must be a valid role based on the roles you defined. So this is all good. We are ready to test. So I'm going to go to the authors methods test.go now. And I might help if I first just install any additional packages. Cool, that's done. Actually, let's just upgrade, because I think it might not have automatically upgraded the stubs. Yep, okay, so it's downloading those new definitions. Cool, so stubs are finished downloading. Now, in this, in the authors methods test, you'll see there's now an additional line as well, this with test user recommendation. So because you're using Authz, we would potentially not only want to make these test requests as the super admin service account that this service is deployed with, but actually kind of mock how it would look like if the request comes from an actual another user. So I'm going to uncomment this because I want to use that. And I'm going to do create author, which, because it's open, this should work from the get-go. So let's just add that author. Sorry, my bad. Author, pp author. Happy with that. This must be display name. I'm just going to restart the Go language server. Okay, there we go. So yeah, let's create this. Cool. And there's the new author created. Now I'm going to take this name. Oops, just copy the full name. And I'm going to do a get IAM policy on that resource. Yep. So now we can actually see how the initial policy looks like after creation. Okay, so first issue here, no role has the permission get IAM policy. So we probably forgot to add that, is my suspicion. Oh, I think we added it, but we forgot to save it. So, okay, get policy. Oh no, it did save. We just forgot to add the get policy. Okay, let's update that. I'm actually going to give the editor get policy as well, but not the add bindings. Okay, let's update that. And now let's go back to code blocks. And the change would be, this specific change I know is in IAM in this permissions.go. So I'm just going to say override. Actually, let's compare, then you can see. So it is not, oh, let's just do this. Okay, it's kind of just switching around the order, so I don't care about that. And then now it's adding that get policy permission for the admin role and for the editor role. So let's save that and let's try again. Get policy. Because the thing is, I'm now making these requests as this test user because I've got this with test user configuration. And yeah, there we get the policy back, and you can see on the admin role, this test user is a member. And now if we wanted to give some other user, let's say we want to now just simulate this test user, John Doe, giving another user editor access on their author. So it will be on that same resource. We want to maybe do some other principal. So this will be user, and I'm just going to say 98765. And then the role I want to give is going to be, actually I'm going to intentionally use a wrong role. So library, author, editor. So intentional spelling mistake there. So I'm expecting this to fail with a validation issue saying editor is not an allowable role. So yeah, there we go. Now let's fix that. Okay, so let's fix that. And now the request works and actually returns to me the new policy. I can see John Doe is still an admin and this new user now is the editor role. And if we now change this to that new user, 98765, and let's just say this is whatever, Sammy, and we now do a get policy. This should still work because we did give the editor role also permission. Principal must be one of the following. Okay, found the mistake. So because we don't yet have the ability to select roles instead of just typing them, there was a little typo here. So library, author, editor. So I'm just going to change that to library, author, editor. Update that. And then if I now look at the code block again, and I pull that in, I'm just going to override it. Permissions. Cool, and that looks better. So now if I do this test with that new test user, and I do a get policy, and yeah, it works. They can also get the policy. But if I were to do a add binding, this will fail because as we defined the permissions, editors can't add bindings. If we look at these permissions, editors can do a get policy, but they can't add bindings. So yeah, this was a quick tutorial on fine-grained authorization. In a next tutorial, we'll probably cover how to consume other services both inside and outside of your product.